everybody, welcome back. This is Jennifer J, and this is episode 60. So I hope this one will upload properly. I have been having so much trouble, and I don't know, it has just been since I've been in Tempe, or Tempe, as they say it here, Tempe. So I don't know what the trouble is, but I don't have any problem with my Wi-Fi or working from home or anything like that. But for some reason, I am struggling to upload. Now, I will say I did that little short, that just real short little 28-second or whatever. No makeup, the whole thing. I was tired. It was awful. I looked terrible. But I did that just to say, I really am trying. And that uploaded perfectly. And it's had like 100 views, which is way more than are watching on a regular basis. So I feel, and it had a little subscribe button. So I feel like maybe there's a reason. I mean, obviously, he's got a reason. So anyway, real quickly, I need to set my timer because I don't want to go over. The last one was super long, and I'm sorry for those of you that like them short, but you can cut it, just watch part now and part later. But I know that frustrates some of you. Sorry. I didn't have my timer last time, which is the problem. I didn't have it on, so I just did the whole T.D. Jakes sermon in one fell swoop, and that, his are always really long, so that took a long time. But this time, we're going to kind of go over several different things at once, and I'm going to be in Genesis 28, verse 12, I think, if I can find it. 28, verse 12. So it's Jacob's vow at Bethel, and so it says in verse 12, then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached down to heaven. I said that wrong. Then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven, and there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Okay? So keep that in mind as we go through this. Now, I'm going to go back a few days because we were into June, middle of June. I was reading a book by Annette Fowlkes. You spell her name Fowlkes. Annette Fowlkes. And she's a minister at our church, a prayer minister. And she wrote this book called My Beloved. And it's all based off of one of the Psalms. But I felt like when I was reading that God was calling me to fast and pray. And I will be honest, I didn't fast. I've had some health issues and whatever, and I made excuses, self-imposed limitations. And I didn't fast. I maybe fasted from social media. That tends to be what I fast from when I'm fasting. But I feel like God didn't say when you, or if you fast, he said when you fast. So I do feel like I'm supposed to fast from food, and I did not at this time. But that, I only mention that because that's come up lots and lots of times for me, and I feel like I should be doing that, and I have not done a good enough job. So I'm going to be held accountable now because I'm telling you. So she was saying, though, in the book, that angels are fighting on my behalf even now, and that really comforted me, just to know that there's nothing I can do. Like, I can be messing up and making all kinds of problems, but God is big enough and more capable and more trustworthy, and he can do it. And his way is going to be, it's going to come to fruition. It might not happen when he initially wanted it to, like the Israelites, having to go 40 years in the desert. Recently, Jamie Stevens from New Life Community Church in Gardner had posted about how God had called her. There's a whole story about how God had called her to work with babies, and she ignored that call for a long time. Well, now she's got her nursing license and she's working in the NICU. And so it's kind of, she's like, God's going to have his way. And she's so right. And so maybe sometime I'll have her on to tell her story. But in thinking about that last June, it really resonated with me that God is trustworthy, and he's got angels fighting on my behalf, and it doesn't matter how lonely I am or how sad I am or how confused I am, he's got it. And she said on page 28, don't run back to the familiar. She also used the word onward, And she also used a divine compass. And you know that my logo for my YouTube website is a compass. And so all of that kind of resonated with me. And on page 31, she said, I must put the past behind me and take hold of your hand to pull me forward to what lies ahead. So that also very much resonated with me. And I was feeling at this time really overwhelmed. I know I say that a lot, but you guys, this journey, because I'm out here 1,200 miles away from my family and my friends and my grandkids and, you know, familiar surroundings. Like, I can't go anywhere without my maps yet. I just don't know. I'm not comfortable enough with how the 202 loops. It's kind of like 435. I think it makes the circle all the way around. And the 101 and 60, and I'm not comfortable enough yet knowing where I'm going, so I just use my maps. But I was feeling really overwhelmed. And, you know, one of the friends that I had out here that I was just kind of getting to know, and we kind of got to be friends, and then that just kind of dissipated, kind of fizzled out. And so then I was like, you know, well, I had somebody I felt like I could talk to, and now I feel like I don't again. And so that was disappointing. And, you know, we talk once in a while, but it's just not the same, like, I don't know. Anyway, and then Raquel, you know I love you. She's working 1,000,000 hours, and so I could call her all the time. But now she's just working 1,000,000 hours. My friend Trisha, also working 1,000,000 hours. She's working doubles all the time. And Bev, my cousin and sister friend, moved to the East Coast. So she is 3 hours ahead of me time zone wise. So like when I'm at a point where I want to talk, she's already in bed. And yeah, it's been kind of a nightmare, you guys. So I've just felt really alone. There's just not been a good way to connect with anybody. So I was praying about that and asking God about it and asking him about a rise. And like, this was the middle of June, you know, beginning of the summer. And I'm just like, is this really the way I'm supposed to go? Like you took me out of my home church in Kansas, which was predominantly white, and you put me in a predominantly black church, and now you're sending me to a predominantly white ministry, which confused me. So it was just all these thoughts going through my mind about, you know, what God wants from me. And then I heard the sermon, and it's from the Potter's House, but it's Michael Phillips, and it's on Genesis chapter 28, verses 10 through 22, which is Jacob's vow at Bethel. So I'm not going to read all that to you because we're short on time today, but I want you to read it, Genesis 28, 10 through 22, because in verse 11 it says a certain place. So it says he came to a certain place, and there's some meaning in that. It's coming your way. There's a certain place God wants you to be, and this is the certain place he wants me to be. Your word is powerful. Abraham had no direction or instruction, just a word from God that said go. And so you just have to be willing and ready to go when he tells you to go. Faith operates in the now, and you have to step out on faith because that provokes your destiny, where you go and what will happen, etc. So like, you know, where you'll settle. And God's the same, whether you've had a good day or a bad day. And, you know, we know that, and we say we should go to church and we should praise God, whether we feel like it or whether we don't. But it's important to remember that God doesn't change. There's no variation with him. But we might view it as punishment when there's variation, because things aren't going how we thought they should go. We might think, well, because I didn't fast, now I'm being punished. But it's not. It's for our protection. So when I'm sitting in my room, this is beginning of summer, so I'm still at my sister's house, right? And I'm in my bedroom, and I'm alone and isolated. And I might view it as punishment, but it's really protection. God is telling me I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready for what he has for me, and he's still got some preparing to do. So I shouldn't view it as I shouldn't be so down in the dumps about it. I should be praising him and saying, I know you have a glorious plan, and I just want it to be fulfilled. And that can be hard to do with our emotions, but our name identified, let me skip over that. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. That's for sure. Speak life over your children. Your steps are ordered but not known. Jacob was alone, he was weary, and he was tired. And he asked, did you ever step out in faith? And if you did, type it on the line there and let me know what you did, that you stepped out on faith and God showed up. Because regardless of your problems, that's not your destiny. You have a promise, and the promise is not predicated on your performance. Think about that. Your promise isn't predicated on your performance. God's promise is God's promise. There's nothing I can do to mess that up. That's God's promise. His word is solid. So he said he finds the spot, and the last sermon was hit the spot, so I liked that. And God orders your step. And it says the place was so powerful that Jacob found it in the dark. So that certain spot that he found in the dark. And even if he was stumbling, that's enough. So even if you're stumbling, or even if I'm stumbling, that's enough. You're making progress. Even if you're stumbling along, God will get you there. And he puts you in the dark to get you ready. And if you think about when he created the earth, he said the evening and the morning was the first day. He didn't say, like we say when the sun comes up, right? Morning and evening is a day. But he said the evening and the morning were the first day. So in the dark. So I thought that was kind of cool. And so he said to thank God for the dark moments. And he said heaven opens up when he is unconscious. So when Jacob is asleep, that's when heaven opened up. And he said the angels, this is what I wanted to get at in verse 12, the angels were ascending and descending. And something I never thought about with this is that the angels were ascending and descending. So they were going up and down. And what is that? We think of angels being in heaven, right? But if they were going up first, they were already down around him. And that's powerful stuff to me, to think they were already there. He laid down on a rock and went to sleep, but that God had angels around him, right down there with him. And they're right down here with me right now. And just knowing that and thinking about that is amazing to me. And then God told Jacob he will do what he says he'll do. And he set the stone as an altar. And so he said the place was looking for him. I'll have to go back and remember why I put that down. But if you watch the sermon, you'll get that. You're not by yourself. You're never alone. Don't be afraid to be yourself. The place is where you become okay with who you are. Darkness and light are the same to God. So I might feel like it's a dark place, but it's not a dark place to God, right? He's still there. He's still working. He's not in the dark. He knows the end. He knows where that's going. And so that's helpful too, just to be encouraged and know that my emotions might feel dark, but it is not dark to God. He knows exactly where I'm going. He takes us from faith to faith. He keeps his promise even as we develop. And sin happens. We don't have to be perfect. God was here before I got here. He was already here. It's dark and lonely and frustrating. But God has me now in the dark, lonely, and frustrating, and he has me in the future. He has me here, and he has me an hour from now, and he has me 2 hours from now, and 2 weeks from now, and 2 years from now. He has me. So, Jacob couldn't be blessed until he let go. I think about they were wrestling. It talks about him wrestling with the angel of the Lord, which was Jesus. And he wanted a blessing, but he had to let go. He had to let go of him to receive the blessing. And we have to let go. Sometimes brokenness is required. And I've been broken, right? I think about when you break a horse, and you have to break their will. And that's kind of how I feel like God has had to break me of myself and depending on myself. And there was just so much feelings going into that whole sermon. And I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to stop. But read Genesis 28, especially verses 10 through 28, I think is what I told you. Now I don't remember. You guys, I hope you wrote it down. 10 through 22. Okay, there might not even be 28. I don't know. Anyway, read that, study it, read the study notes if you have them. If you don't, there's a great place to get study notes at BibleGateway.com. You can also look up different Bible versions. On the YouVersion app, you can as well. They don't have the study notes there, but you can read the different versions and compare how it says. I know a lot of people are going back to the original language because the American version, or the Western culture version, isn't necessarily the same or a good descriptor of what maybe wasn't translated. Some translations are better than others. That's all I'm saying. You might want to go back and really dig into it and see what he's saying and see what he's saying to you. But if you don't mind, put a comment. Let me know. When is a time that you stepped out on faith and God showed up? It can be something little, like he told me to go to my neighbor and I did, and they didn't bite my head off. Or it could be something big, like he told me to move 1,200 miles away and showed up. So whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to try and upload this, and hopefully it will be uploaded by Thursday. But if not, I will try to upload a short and let you know. All right. Thanks, you guys. Bye-bye.